Things that burn. Rushes. The marchers saw off the first wave of invaders after the summer solstice, and while there were deaths, it was nowhere near as bad as it might have been. Then, shortly before the autumn equinox, a large group of scions in Gravenmarch were able to seize control of a powerful regio, despite the best efforts of the heroes of Anvil. Using some combination of dark sorcery, they began to force that regio open, creating a way for thousands more of their kind to boil into Bregasland. The Ending Tide. During the autumn equinox, a band of brave Imperial heroes used the Sentinel Gate to try and intercept a company of scions in Bregasland. The heralds attempted to claim the Still Rock, a potent day regio not aligned to any known Eternal. Despite their best efforts, the heroes were forced to retreat, and the scions claimed their objective. The Still Rock is a stone pillar, shot through with veins of quartz. Positioned like the gnomon of a sundial, it is somehow connected to the working beneath graven rock. More importantly, perhaps, it represents the single most powerful regio under the control of the Cold Sun's forces. Under normal circumstances, the enmity of the Imperial Conclave would prevent more heralds entering the Empire. But it soon becomes apparent that the scions have the capacity to force the portal at the heart of the potent regio wide, and allow more soldiers of Oblivion to enter Bregasland. Many more. An entire new army, the Ending Tide, begins to gather in Gravenmarch. Again, Imperial magicians have taken precautions. The dripping echoes of the fen settle over Grey Fens, creating a powerful protective ward of cunning mist and confusing fog. As in the north, however, there is something off about the ward. No creatures of the Night Forest accompany the invocation, but rather the tendrils of seething mist extend in pockets across the entirety of Bregasland, slowing the spread of the Ending Tide. This is something of a mixed blessing, however, as the mists appear to be almost as tricky for marchers to navigate as they are for the invaders. They don't impede those fighting the scions, and indeed they may help the beaters and yeomen move quickly and secretly into position to harry the ranks of the Day Heralds. Rather, they cause mild trouble for good folk going about their business, turning them around and occasionally causing them to wander lost for hours on end. They present particular difficulties to the magistrates and militia dispatched by the Imperial Senate to investigate the recent troubles in the Western Marches. It is not clear if this is intentional, or just the magic responding to the resentment of the Bregas. Peculiar night magic aside, the threat the Ending Tide represents is very clear. There are no fortifications whose garrison might oppose the invaders. For a fortnight or so, it begins to look as if the Bregas might be in real trouble. The scions of the Ending Tide seem broadly unconcerned about the mud and the marsh. They are supernaturally adept at exploiting paths and shallows, mostly known only to the locals. The unnatural clarity of their terrible lord, perhaps. In another world, the Ending Tide achieve their full strength, a great host of scions, larger than any currently in the Empire. They sweep through Gravenmarch, slaughtering as they go. They burn Graven and spill west into the rushes. Sallow falls. They transform Graven Rock into a terrible fortress, and from there they continue to despoil not only the southern Dower Fens, but assault southern Mittwold and northern Mournwold as well. In this world, however, things go very differently. 2 weeks after the autumn equinox, the armies of the Empire arrive in Bregasland. 3 Marcher armies, the Bounders, the Drakes, and the Strong Reeds, supported by Izala's Dance. More than 1,500 yeomen, the entourage of a dozen Marcher captains, join the fray. They throw a ring of steel and yew around the ending tide, and they refuse to take so much as a single step back. The Marchers know this territory intimately, and they take every advantage the Marchers have to offer, ensuring that they fight with defensive advantage wherever possible. For the first month, they let the ending tide crash against them, an irresistible sea of heralds against an immovable rock. And then, step by step, they start to move forward, closing in towards the still rock. As the ending tide are compressed, they fight all the more fiercely. The Marchers and their Navarre allies, however, take no chances. They make use of the enchanted mists emanating from Grey Fens wherever possible, so that even when they are forced to pull back, they make certain to leave nobody behind to be destroyed in Cold Sun's cruel funereal fire. The landskeepers and vates, the physics and chirurgeons ensure that anyone who can be saved is saved. Given time, the ending tide would have risen to a torrent, a sweeping ocean of scions that might have overrun the Marchers. But thanks to the swift actions of the Marcher generals and their armies, they do not get that time. 3 weeks before the winter solstice, the steel ring closes around the heart of the army. A vicious fight in the shadow of the still rock ends with the Grand Archon pierced by arrows, their forces broken and shattered. With an almighty crack, so loud it felt to some as if the sky itself were breaking, the pillar of stone and quartz imploded. A rush of force swept out, hurling everyone within 100 paces to the ground, accompanied by a burst of blue-white radiance. When it cleared, there was no sign of the unnatural army. Every remaining scion still fighting was gone, dragged back to the realm of the oblivion that spawned them. In the still moment, after that thunderous detonation, it began to rain. A cold, lazy rain that quickly soaked through every Marcher and every Navarre. The kind of rain that made the Bregas smile. A promise that things might finally get back to normal. The Regio around the still rock and the rock itself was gone. But so was every single scion of the ending tide. All that remained were the signs of their passage. The bodies of the fallen, the wounds they inflicted on those who courageously stood against them, the spilt blood and the burnt willows and the baked ground. The rain of the fens is already washing even these mementos away. Game information. Bregasland. The ending tide has been decisively dealt with. It quickly becomes apparent during the campaign that control of the Still Rock was sufficient to have allowed the army to continue bringing new heralds to the Empire, and it is possible that had they been able to dig in, their initial 3,000 strength force might have swollen to rival the Drakes in size, with potentially catastrophic implications for the Marchers. They won't get that chance, however. The presence of the army has prevented the Keeper of the Dour Fens from claiming their usual bounty of crystal mana this season, and the destruction of the Still Rock has had a peculiar destabilizing effect on the magical flows in the area. The welt silver that runs through the rock has taken on a particular blue-white sheen, and the echoes of the past seem much louder than normal. The 3 men here that anchor the mana flows of Gravenmarch now weep a faintly glowing, rainbow-coloured liquid. All this means that the production of the sinecure has also been affected. Rather than 10 crystal mana each season, it now produces only 5 crystal mana, but also 3 measures of prismatic ink. Bounders! We stand in loyalty with our siblings in the Strong Reeds, with a solid defence of Gravenmarch in Bregasland, to stop the cold sun and in support of the magistrates who are rooting out the traitors left behind by Fisher and the Jotun, who intend to murder our friends and families. Bobbert Thatcher, General of the Bounders. Drakes! We fought off the predations of Siaka, and their heralds are now composting the winter crops. But our fellow marchers are under threat. We will enact a solid defense of Gravenmarch in Bregisland against the forces of the Cold Sun. Tancred of Mead, General of the Drakes. Queen Fisher is defeated. Years of war have now ended, and Bregus will forever remain marcher. But loyalty calls. The Cold Sun seeks to murder our families. We folk heroes will never let that happen. Now and forever, we answer the call of Bregisland. Loyalty calls. Let's go! Amberlane Black, General of the Strong Reeds. Isaila's dance, we move to Bregisland into Gravenmarch. We will mount a solid defense against the newest threat to the Empire, the Cold Sun. We have rested. We have trained. We will stand. We do this so that Navarre can defend Hercynia and liberate the great forest orcs. Strength to the Empire, strength to Navarre. Your generals will do what is needed. Iron Longshadow, General of Isaila's Dance.